Morning, everyone. Welcome to Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel. This is episode 187. Thank you so much for being here. I was trying, while the intro credits were running, I was trying to catch up on the chat and see who was all here this morning. It is so good to see you guys. Thank you so much. It's going really quickly, so I scrolled back and to catch up with everybody. So welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you're in. I am very cognizant of the fact that we are increasing in numbers and increasing in time zones. I had a Zoom get together with three other ladies who you will hear from tomorrow. I'm going to get that out tomorrow. And we were all in four different time zones, and it just really brought home for me the international flavor and nature of our community, and the fact that, while we find ourselves in a global pandemic, we also this won't end for us in terms of connecting virtually. So we're getting really good at it, and we're getting really good at understanding time zones and knowing who's where, which is really cool. So thank you so much, Dorothy. It is finished. We will chat about this today, and there's a couple of thoughts that I have about it, but overall, I'm really happy with it. And I have to admit, I actually kind of want to knit it again. So I'm probably a sucker for punishment, but there's a couple of other patterns that I kind of have my eye on that are similar but not the same. And so I thought maybe I'll start spinning for something. So we'll chat about that later in the show. It has been a kind of a challenging week. The kids have been sick, and so Mike took a day off, and I was home with the kids all week. And so on Thursday, they did go back to school, and they had their little Valentines to deliver and hand out. So they were really, really motivated to get better so they could go to school on Thursday, although they were exhausted when they got home. And so on Thursday, I texted Mike, my husband, Mr. Welford, as Eve calls him, and I said, I'm not doing anything today. It has been such an intense week. I am sitting at my loom and I'm weaving. And he texted back. He's like, yes, you are. Do not feel badly. So thankfully, touch wood and blue and all the things, I have come out of it unscathed. My mom and Mike got it, but it was just one of those minor colds that just kind of makes you feel a bit under the weather, just sick enough not to go to school, and sort of, just they were kind of just grumpy, a lot eating tons and no fevers, and so quiet week at home with them in tow. The nice thing is the school is still semi-online for kids who are fully online learning, and then so for the kids who are in class, there's still access to um, basically like their online stuff. So James actually did log in just to check and see what was going on in school, because they're doing structures right now. So they just finished the Inuit, studying Inuit. That was their theme for January, and they were looking at the Arctic, and now they're doing structures. So on Thursday they built catapults for STEM. If you guys don't know what STEM is, it's oh shoot, what does it stand for? Technology, engineering, mathematics, and I think it's STEAM now because they put in art in there as well. So anyways, he loves STEM. That's his absolute most favorite subject. So he's a real builder. We got snow here this morning. So, oh, thank you, Diana. Love the fit of that sweater. Thank you so much. It's my favorite color. So, which we got snow here this morning. So I know Glenda said they had snow in Victoria, which is about 2 hours from here because there's a ferry. So that's on Vancouver Island. And I think they got an ice storm in Oregon. So thankfully Linda still has internet. Diane, you probably got snow then as well because you're in Oregon as well. Rainy Colorado, wet, rainy, and snowy Seattle. And science, oh my gosh, the S, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Thank you, Diana. I knew you would know. I was just drawing a blank. You guys are so great. It's funny actually because they actually have like one of their subjects in school is actually called STEM, and they spend quite a lot of time on it. So it's rather than having like they have math and they have their science and they've got their reading and stuff, but then they actually have every day a section of time that is called STEM, and it's usually in the afternoon. It's usually all afternoon, like 1:30 till the time they leave school. And it's always been James's favorite. He just loves it. And they work in small groups. And it's been like this since grade 1. So grade 1 was the same, grade 2, and now grade 3. And they work in small groups of usually 2 or 3 kids, but they have their own individual stuff that they're doing, but they're working in a group. And it's by far his favorite subject. He just loves it. I wish it was something that existed when I was in school, because I think it would have been something that would have really fired me up and gotten me excited, because the stuff that they get to do is really cool. Like they were building bobsleds and whatnot in their Arctic studies. They were doing like 3-dimensional, like how they would actually build like a dog sled, and how like it was really cool. They built igloos. It was really neat. I thought stems were on plants. Oh, Meg, I love you. Wouldn't it be great to have botany and dyeing in school again? Oh my goodness, yes, we go to Waldorf schools. So, Sam, if your chat is not working, hit refresh. Sometimes you just need to refresh it, and the chat will start again. Yeah, so I think Diana got snow where she is out in Glen Valley. She's about 17 kilometers from me, about 20 minutes away. And yeah, I think sort of many of us are dealing with winter. So the kids were out this morning in the snow already playing around. They got totally snowy, and now they're having big bowls of oatmeal and some toast and whatnot. So they're upstairs having some quiet before I'm sure they'll go back out again, because it's still snowing. We've got about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches. So not tons, but you know, enough to kind of, you know, roll around in. And they shoveled the next door neighbor, which is really lovely because she's on her own. All right, so I wove this week. We won't go into huge detail on my weaving because it's not quite done. So I thought I would share it with you, but then we'll go into detail next week. And I have some works in progress behind me on Diana that I will share with you. I'll talk about my poet with you guys. And then we have a huge amount of community participation, because you guys have been making up a storm. I don't know how you are making as much as you are making. Every time I go into chat, every time I go into the Ravelry group, it's just blown up with photos and inspiration and stuff that you are working on, which is just wonderful. And we had an Ask Anything from Wendy that I wanted to chat about, because she has some over twisted singles. So I wanted to talk about that and address her questions. People had answered her in the Ravelry group, but I also wanted to chat about it here because I thought it was a really great question. So let's get into the show. So I see that Samantha is asking whether the cyan jumper is going to be a knit along. So her and Hannah and I were talking. Were we chatting in the Slack channel? Do you remember, Sam? I think it was in the Slack channel. We were talking, we were all sort of looking at this new pattern that's just been published. And I will link it in the show notes in the live chat for you guys while we're talking. A couple of people actually posted it, which was really, really funny. So Hannah posted it, and Jenny posted it as well in random, that they thought that it would be a great pattern for Handspun. It's knit in natural colors. It's a gray background. It's by Elizabeth Doherty, the pattern, and the photographs are beautiful. I think that's part of why everybody's sort of really taken with it. But it's this gorgeous gray background with a cream colorwork yoke. And so quite a number of people are talking about knitting it together. So I know Victoria, she said she purchased it yesterday. Samantha, it just said that the cyan is going to be the author is going to do an online knit along, which is great. I think that I have no idea how it's pronounced, honestly, Sarah. I'm probably saying it wrong. So I think that if you guys want to work on it, I think what we'll do is, if there's a whole bunch of people who want to make it, just share it in the natural shades along, because many of us probably will do it as a natural shades anyways. And if Elizabeth is going to do a online cal, then you guys can participate in both places, because I know there's like 4 or 5 people that all want to knit it. So yeah, have a look at that. um Oh my goodness, Becca, good to see you. She's rushing in late because she had a guild meeting and a family online chat. It is a beautiful sweater, Judy. It is, absolutely. So let's talk really quickly about my poet. So this is a pattern by Sari Norland. And if you haven't seen Sari's patterns, definitely check her out. I will link her in the live chat as well, because it's easy for me to link stuff as I'm talking about it. So Sari is a Finnish knitter, and I know that that's right because I looked it up. I often say the wrong place of where designers are from. So Sari is from Finland, and I have to admit, okay, so I'm going to read her thing on Ravelry. It says, Sari loves undyed wool, knitting cables, good quality coffee, and cats, not necessarily in that order. I think she has a YouTube channel. I feel like I've watched a couple of her episodes. I honestly don't get online to watch people's podcasts very often. I wish that I had more space to be able to do that. And that's actually something that I'm hoping to work on this year, because there's a few podcasts that I really like to catch up with regularly. And I end up having to watch them at like 2 times the speed, and I just hate that. So yeah, if you guys know of Sari's YouTube channel, if you don't mind linking it in the live chat, that would be amazing. Maybe Victoria, you wouldn't mind doing that if you have a sec, but if not, don't worry about it. I also want to knit her Ballad pullover and her Sawyer pullover. One of them's cabled, and the other one is a lot like this, where you've got lace with stockinette sleeves, and it's a raglan. The Ballad is a little bit more, there's a little bit more ease to it. It's I think it's a worsted weight. Anyways, so this is one of her patterns. It was originally published in Lane magazine, and then of course I think it's been whatever time it needs to be until the author can publish it on their own. So she's since published it. If you don't have the Lane magazine copy, I would definitely go ahead and buy the PDF that's through Sari on her website, like on Ravelry or PayHip or wherever you're getting your patterns from, because I had heard from reading through people's notes that the improvements to the pattern that she made in the PDF download that she published was quite a bit clearer and a lot more detailed and much easier to follow. And I have to say, like, I didn't have the magazine copy. I only had the PDF. It was fine. Like, I had no issues. Her patterns are very, very clear. They're easy to read. The stitch counts were correct. There was, anything that, there was nothing wrong. So my changes that I would make if I were to do this again has nothing to do with the pattern. It has nothing to do with the design. It's that while I was knitting this, because I was knitting it over such a long period of time, I looked back to see when I cast this on. It was July 22nd, 2020. So that's quite a long time for me to be knitting something. And I got completely stuck in the raglan increases. It was just too much for my brain. And I ended up picking it up and putting it down and picking it up and putting it down. And then I finally was able to get through and divide for the sleeves. And then again, I got kind of stalled and delayed. And then somebody in the live chat about a month ago now said, oh, what about your poet? You don't have anything that you're working on. What did you rip out your poet? And I was like, oh my gosh, I should totally pull that out. And I decided just to work on it until I was done. So thank you to whoever said that and mentioned about it, because it had kind of gone out of my head. And so if I were to go back and do this again, I would actually make the yoke a little bit deeper. I'll stand up in just a moment and show this to you guys. But when I was knitting it, since then I've gained weight, which is good. I needed to. And so as I've gained weight, my the size that I chose when I originally cast on, I think if I were to go back and do it again, I would just cast on one size bigger. Now, the problem is that I had a really limited amount of yarn. So I only had 2 skeins of Swans Island Natural Colors collection in fingering, and it's a discontinued yarn. It's a merino, and I knit it in what the colorway Goldenrod. So it's a natural dyed superwash merino, and it's the Swans Island, like their superwash process that they use, that they call the eco wash. I only had 2 skeins of this, and so I had a total of 1,050 yards of yarn for 200 grams, and I have 40 grams left. So I'm not sure how much yardage I have left. Maybe somebody could do quick math for me. So I have 40 grams left, and it's 1,050 yards per 100 grams, or sorry, per 200 grams. So I don't know how much yardage I have left, but so my concern is that if I were to knit one size up, I wouldn't have had enough yarn, because I did lengthen it quite a bit. So, yes, Dorothy, I did, and I'll answer that question in a moment. So, so I would have made the yoke a little bit deeper. The problem is that you've got stitch count problems because the chart goes over such a huge, it goes over such a huge expanse of stitches because the chart starts here and ends here. So you need to have enough stitches for a full chart repeat. So if you make it bigger, you're increasing like a lot of stitches in terms of ease. So you do have to choose your sizing quite strategically, because you're increasing an entire chart repeat, which I think is like 20 or 30 stitches. I think it's like 30 stitches. It's quite a lot. So just be aware that if you start to modify it quite a bit, you're gonna make it either way too big or way too small. So overall, the size that I chose, if I were to do it again, I would definitely go up one more size, which would have given me a little bit more ease. So yeah, 210 yards left over. Thanks, Sarah. That sounds about right. That's about what I've got here. So I could have done a couple of things. I could lengthen it a little bit to use up more yarn if I wanted to, and then some of that loss of ease up here, you gain it in length, and so then it's okay because you sort of have more space. Like when you don't have all that ease, if you make it longer, it kind of compensates for it. So I could make it longer. So after wearing it for a little while, I could add one more chart repeat and make it a bit longer. I could make the sleeves a little bit longer. I did modify the sleeves quite a bit. So the sleeves are supposed to be knit until about here. And then you do 1 by 1 rib for the rest of the way, and then you fold the sleeves back and make cuffed folded sleeves. I'm never going to wear it like that. Like that's just not my style. I really love 3/4 length sleeves. So I knit them stockinette, and then I put on 1.5 inches of ribbing at the bottom instead. And I didn't do any increases or decreases through here because again, I had no ease to work with. So there's no extra fabric in here. And then the other thing is I lengthened it. So the length of the sweater is, it's quite long actually. For I've noticed that most pullovers are knit to about 13 or 14 inches in length. And I think that's because most people, their torso isn't super long, but you can see my torso is really long. Like my hip bones are down here. That's a lot of inches in here. And so if a sweater stops here, on me, it's cropped. So I made it about 16 inches long, and I added a little bit of extra ribbing at the bottom. If I were to do this again, I would probably add another inch or two to the bottom of the sweater. And because it is lace and it is see-through, I've got a cream colored camisole underneath that I think actually works quite well. It's very summery, it's very light. I think this is actually going to work really well with high-waisted shorts in the summer. I think it's actually going to look quite nice because we get quite cool in the evening here. So even on the hottest days, it gets quite cool and you want something. I also don't like to be out in the sun a lot and getting a lot of sun on me because it's not so much the skin cancer risk, it's the, I'm just so affected by it. And so it makes me feel really tired and I can actually get quite nauseated. So I often will wear long sleeve t-shirts in the summer. So this might actually be perfect for that. It is quite warm sitting here. It's not very warm today and I'm quite warm. I'm also podcasting under the lights. And then for the neckline, what I did with the neckline, and I did this with my Shifty as well, so we'll talk about that in a second, and I also did this with my pink velvet, so this is kind of becoming like my thing. What I did was, instead of casting on and knitting the ribbing and then going into the sweater, I cast on for the sweater. And then I went back after and I picked up and did the ribbing afterwards. And I wish I had done this with my stone crop pullover as well, because that big boat neck, it's just not my favorite. I don't have a lot of space for my shoulders to have a big boat neck. Like, as soon as you've got a big boat neck on me, it's like way off my shoulders. I just don't have a lot of space. I love boat necks. I love what they look like on people, and I just think they're fantastic. But this is about as wide as I can go before my bra straps start and the camisole strap starts. So I wouldn't want it any wider than this, but you're right, like in the photos, like it's quite a bit wider of a neckline. But I think what happens with a lot of these top-down pullovers is just the weight of the sweater pulls on it. So I picked it up afterwards, and I picked up one by one. So I picked up one stitch for every stitch. So I ended up with a lot of stitches on my needles, and I just did one by one rib, and then I cast off. I was going to do a tubular cast off, but honestly at that point I just wanted to be done. So I was a little bit lazy, and I just cast off regularly, and I did regular cast offs on the other edges as well. Thank you, Judy. I really like the fit of yours. Do you think perhaps modifying the shoulder shaping would make a difference? Maybe, like if I had done a little bit more length through here, through the raglan, like not necessarily do any more increases, but maybe added a little bit more length before separating for the sleeves. I really like the fit of this. I think after wearing it a little bit this week and kind of getting used to it, when I first put it on, I was like, oh no, it's so tight. But as I've worn it, superwash, it stretches out too. It's actually grown on me quite a bit. So what you would have gotten from me last weekend versus this weekend is very different. Last weekend I probably would have actually been quite negative about it. Do you pick up one by one stitch? No, it didn't. It modified the neckline in the sense that I was picking it up because I had cast it on, whereas in the pattern it's cast on and then you knit the ribbing and then you start the sweater. That's the modification, not the actual picking up. Whenever I pick up a neckline, I pick up every stitch, because I like the look of it. I think it looks cleaner. When you start picking up like every other stitch and then knitting on really small needles or really tightly, I don't think it looks as nice. I like picking up every stitch. I'm just going to make sure that I don't miss stuff in the chat. The function of 3/4 length sleeves, absolutely. Fan of 3/4 lengths. Yeah, I think the tank top works. The tank top's a bit long, but I've got other ones that might work as well. And I know you guys are chatting a little bit about Flax, which is fantastic. Let me see. My arms are long, so even long sleeves never reach my wrist. Kathy, I have the same problem. My arms are 20 inches, like just to here. So I always have to knit like 21 or 22 inch sleeves, and I'm always like, oh my goodness, are they over yet? Color, it's perfectly balanced. Oh, thank you, Mars. Really lightweight. It's really lightweight. This yarn was lovely to work with. You guys know that I don't work with commercial yarn a lot. This was old stash that I had gotten from my local yarn shop, which is closing. She's retiring in April. I'm so sad to see her go. But she's ready, she said. And so this was stash that I had bought from her years ago and had been in my stash. And when I saw this pattern, I just thought, yep, that's the yarn for that pattern. And it didn't take very much yarn, like I said, you guys. So 1,050 minus 210, it only used 840 yards. So even though it was a really intense knit, it didn't take a lot of like yarn, which is pretty amazing. So we've done, great question, Kathy. We have done We have done flax in the past. So if you look back in some of the content, there's flax going on. There was we did a whole section on plant-based fibers, and we went back to it again. So if you guys, and if you're growing and cultivating your own flax and doing all of that, there is a gardening channel on the Slack channel too. So, and if there's a particular interest right now in spinning flax, we can absolutely start a flax channel for sure. I think Dorothy was asking how you changed the neckline. So I think what happened, so the question is, I think Dorothy was asking how you changed the neckline from a boat neckline to what you have now. So when you cast on and then knit the sweater and then go back to pick up the ribbing, you just tighten up the neckline because you're adding more structure because you have a cast on edge. When you cast on up here, do ribbing and then start the sweater, no matter what sweater you're talking about, it's going to stretch and pull at the sweater. So like my stone crop's way over there. With the stone crop, I cast it on up here, did the ribbing, and then went into the body. And the thing is that there's just not as much structure in your stitches here. So it just pulls, the weight of the sweater and the structure of the stitches just pulls, and it becomes more and more and more stretched out. And that's how you get that big boat neck, which looks awesome on people. It's a great design feature, but I prefer the structure of casting on and then going back and picking up my neckline later. Does that help, Dorothy? So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Let me know, Dorothy, and then we'll talk about my Shifty, because actually it's behind me. So let me grab that. So the cast on just prevents it stretching. Exactly, Zan. Yeah, exactly. I find like I was saying, I like to have my necklines just a little bit higher up. I like them to be a little bit more structured, and it's just aesthetically, I just prefer it. Like I said, if I have them any wider, they're falling off my shoulders, and I'm constantly picking at them and going like this. Like I'm constantly doing that. Well, that's not very nice when you're wearing a sweater. You don't want to be constantly pulling at stuff. So I think it's just nice to have that added structure. I get why designers do it the way that they do it, because if you're a brand new knitter and you're casting on for your sweater, and then they're having to explain how to go back and pick up stitches and do a cast off up here, and like it just gets really, really niggly. And those are niggly details that you can kind of deal with later as you become more and more advanced. Yeah. Boat necks have wide fronts and backs and similar shoulders. You can lessen the number of stitches on the front and back and add a few more on the sides to get away from the boat. Yeah, that's a great point, Megan, for sure. Yeah, I'm probably weird that I need a pretty high crew neck or it annoys me a lot. I don't think so, Martha. I think a lot of people are like that. You don't want to be constantly pulling at your sweaters, right? Like I was looking at a cardigan pattern the other day, and I'm torn about knitting it because it's something that's been in my queue forever, and it's something I've always wanted to knit. But when you look at the people modeling it and wearing it, it doesn't sit right. So it's sort of like, well, could I modify that or by putting on buttons, or is it just going to be like that? You know, it's hard. So, Dorothy, I don't mean to harp on this, but so if you wanted the neckline even narrower, then you could decrease in the ribbing section. Exactly. Yeah, you got it, Dorothy. So what on the what's that called, my cardigan that I made recently, the one by Orlane Souche, what she did in that pattern, oh my goodness, what was that pattern called, you guys? It's like I wear it every day. My Albini. So what she does is, it's a cardigan, but what she does is you actually do short rows to build up the back neck, and then it comes down nicely in the front. So there's lots of things that you can do to modify. And if you have specific questions around like modifying some of this stuff, like just let me know. I could have made this quite a bit longer, and then it would even be a little bit smaller, and I could have done some decreases. There's lots and lots of things that you can do for sure. I really like this because you can put a cardigan on over top and it still kind of balances. You're not having a whole bunch of stuff up around your neck, because I get really like, so yeah. Oh my goodness, now you guys are talking about claustrophobia. Exactly. So let me pull my Shifty up. I've got my Shifty on here and my Cathedral. So I've got kind of double double sweaters going on here. I put my Cathedral on my try-it-on tubing, and I added cables to my Shifty. So we'll talk about this first so that I can zoom in the camera on the Shifty. So this is the Cathedral pullover by WnS Toronto. And I got this pattern for free when it was first published, and now it's a for purchase pattern, I think. I had started it and then I had ripped it out because it was so astronomically too big. It was like 8 inches too big. It was like out to here. And it was just way, way too much ease. So I went back and I cast on the smaller size, and it's got twisted rib at the bottom, and it's supposed to be a 3x2 rib. Sorry, 2x1 rib. So 2 purl stitches, 1 twisted knit stitch. And I really didn't like the aesthetic of it. So I did a 1x1 rib, twisted rib. And then you work short rows to drop down the back hem. So it's not really super obvious yet because of course I'm still knitting, but you can see how the front kind of is a bit higher than the back. So you do a whole bunch of short rows up here on the side, just like in the Shore cardigan by Carrie Bostic Hogue. And then I'm just building up the body. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to make it. I'm not sure if I'm going to make the back 16 inches so that it hits just like this one where it hits back here, or if I'm going to knit the front a bit longer and have the back come down a bit more. I'm not really sure. I still have spinning to do for this. So I've got this left in this skein, and I have this skein going to do next. And then I've got, I don't want to have any extra yarn for this. This is one of those things where I only want to spin what I need for the sweater. So that is the Cathedral, and it's got a twisted rib pattern through the yoke. So you knit up to the yoke where you attach the sleeves and the body get attached, and you finish off the yoke. I haven't knit a WnS Toronto pattern before, even though I have quite a few of their patterns. But I have heard that they fit quite large, so I am knitting one size smaller than I normally would. And so far, and that's why I had to rip out, because I was knitting the pattern that I wanted, and then I ripped it out and had to go back to back one size. So I do have gauge, but beware, it fits a bit big. So yeah, you're welcome, Dorothy. Love the I-cord, the way to tie. Oh, that's a great idea too, Marsh. You can use I-cord to tighten up stuff if you have stuff that's sort of too big and too bagged out and too stretched out, which actually I'm thinking about putting onto my stone crop, because I need to fix that neckline, and I bought yarn from Katrina to be able to fix that. So and cinch it up a bit. So my Shifty, I finally was able to separate for the sleeves. Let me just zoom in here for you. And I was finally able to separate for the sleeves. Sorry, let me just move the camera a little bit. So I was really worried when I first separated for the sleeves that it was going to be too tight and too small, especially after coming off of the Poet. I was like, oh, here we go. Maybe I should rip back and redo it. But I put it on, I tried it on like 3 or 4 times, and it's actually perfect. It just looks a bit snug through here, but I think it's the actual dress form, because when I put it on, it's totally fine. So I think it's just the way the dress form is and the sleeves coming off of here. And because of the mosaic knitting pattern, I think it's a little bit snug, and then when it's washed, it'll relax, and it'll like block out basically. So I'm just transitioning to the red. So the colors that I'm using for this in this order, the yoke is the golden color, and then I'm going to transition to the pink and then transition to the blue. Originally I was going to do it this way, but I didn't like the contrast between these two quite so much. I thought it was a more natural rainbow to go this way. So the golden brown yarn is through here, and now I just attached for the pink, and I'm doing a little bit of a fade So there's a row of pink here, and then I'm back to the golden brown, and then it'll be pink next. So it's just a little bit of a fade through. And I'll do the same with the blue. The nice thing is, because it's all fiber that Lynn dyed and that I'm spinning, so this is her Polworth silk, and then these are her Falkland base. So very, very similar type of wool, similar type of sort of properties, if you will. The colors overlap. So all of the pinky browny color that's in the yellow is in the pink, and the stuff that's in the pink is in the blue, and then all of those colors are in the green. So they're all kind of in there, if you will, which is really nice because it's making it sort of very, very neutral, easy on the eyes. And even my mom was quite complimentary, which is really nice because she's got that painter's eye, and she just sees things a bit differently, and sometimes she can't see how we put colors together as knitters. Now I did start one of the sleeves, and I'm going to work on this sleeve at the same time, so that it mirrors itself. So I just finished the golden color in here, and I'll do that on this side as well and finish that off, and then I'll keep going on the body, and then I'll add the pink. So I'm kind of knitting it all at the same time. I'll catch up on chat in just a sec because I know I'm completely ignoring you guys. So let me just move this out of my way. And I'll just move the camera back, and then I can, ooh, you guys are all up close and personal. So then I can answer your questions. Oops. This camera isn't as sensitive as my old one, or it's more sensitive, sorry. So when you hit the zoom button, it really zooms. So let me just answer questions because you guys are going so quickly. I love it. If you guys want to talk, like if you have a specific question for me, make sure you go at Rachel Smith so that I can see it right away and I don't miss it. You guys were talking about crew necks for a bit, which is fantastic. And then, oh, scoop necks. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about a scoop neck. What handspun are you using? I think I answered your question, Dana. So this is my West Coast Color by Lynn Anderson. I was like, who? Lynn, I was just talking about her yesterday. What is the name of the clear tubing you can put your needles in? It's called Try It On tubing. Literally, it's called Try It On tubing. Someone needs to make a dress form with arms. Yes, Diane, I totally agree. Oh, thank you, Greta Lynn. The gold makes it fantastic. I think the gold makes it interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like the pink is a really great color. I bought the pink and the blue for this project specifically, and to put with this. And I wasn't sure what the fourth color was going to be, but I had bought these at Fibers West with Rebecca actually, for the Shifty, but I'd only bought the blue and the pink, and I'd sort of figured, you know, I had enough of Lynn's colors in my stash that I would find something. But funny, you guys might remember this yarn. This was for my Copenhagen, and I held it double with mohair. And so that pattern, that cardigan I finished right at the beginning of 2020. It was before the lockdown started. It was when we were just starting to hear about this pneumonia circulating. This is that yarn, and I had so much left over that I grabbed a skein of it, and I threw it into the Shifty. So it was completely kismet. It wasn't intentional. So that's where that came from. That's a great question, Diane. Or Dana, I should probably go back a little bit. So this is the yarn that I'm using for my Cathedral. And this is CVM. So this was one of the fleeces that my friend Greta here and I had processed. We got 2 fleeces and we split them. And Meg actually organized it all for us, which was amazing. It was so kind of her. And it was from Galen's flock, which I know many people in the community got a whole bunch from her. And we shipped it to Liz of Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works, and she put it into pin drafted roving for us. So I spun this during Spin Together back in October, and I made 2 3-plies, and it's this gorgeous kind of oatmeal-y color. Woolen spun 3-ply roughly DK weight when it was finished. And this one was 170 yards for 57 grams. And I can't remember what the other one was. And then I had a bobbin full of singles, and I wanted to see what the fiber would be like as a 2-ply, just to see. And so I 2-plied the rest of the singles, and this is the 2-ply that came out of it. So very fine. This is more like a fingering weight, heavy fingering weight. It's about 18 wraps per inch. So this is about 12 to 14 wraps per inch is the 3-ply on top, and the 2-ply underneath is about 18 wraps per inch. So I had actually been thinking, so I need to spin more 3-ply for the Cathedral, but I don't really want to have excess yardage because I would like to make more of this 2-ply. So that's kind of my thinking. So I'm just going to fill up a few bobbins of singles and ply them together and just kind of keep doing that. I figure I probably need to spin about 5 bobbins of singles, and then I'll ply up a couple of 3-ply yarns, and whatever's left I'll ply as 2-ply. So yeah, that's that yarn, because actually I shouldn't just blitz over it. Thank you for mentioning it, Dana, because I really, really quite love it. So let me tell you about my blanket. So this isn't really a blanket. These are my Advent skeins. So these are all of the skeins from my Advent spin back in December. And I might actually make a little vlog about this just to finish that off, because I had done all those vlogs in December and spun all those yarns. And then I sort of thought maybe I should just make a little wrap up vlog. I was going to knit with this yarn, and I was going to make a shawl, one of Melanie Berg's patterns that uses a whole bunch of gradient sets or mini skeins. And then I thought, I think my original plan was to weave with it. I think I'm going to go back to that idea, and I'm going to weave with it. I am so glad I trusted my gut, and I did. So this is CVM Dorset, Columbia Dorset blend. And I did a random weft. And the warp was random as well. And I'll give you more details next week, but this is how it turned out. It's very square, but it actually will be quite lovely for a little throw when we're camping, because Nora gets quite chilly, and we'll be able to just kind of throw this over her. It's too small to kind of wear as like a wrap of any kind. It's not big enough to kind of do anything with, but I will trim the fringe. I haven't done that yet. And it's kind of made like I think it's about 30 by 30, I think, inches. So the pattern, the reason why I was so excited, and it's really bouncy and springy, it's very squishy. It's a little bit thick. I wove it at 10 ends per inch, 10 picks per inch, but I did a pattern. It's Huck lace. So this is Huck. I've got weft floats and warp floats. And figuring that out was totally a trust of just a faith, a leap of faith. That's the saying I'm trying to figure out. I was looking in my Next Steps in Weaving book. That book for me has become my little weaving Bible. And oh yeah, that's a good idea, Dana. Or sorry, no, Dagmar. Fold it on the bias. Hey, that's cool. Look at that. Oh, it's like a Shetland. Oh my goodness. Look at that. I have to trim all this. Just ignore the fringe for now, okay? You don't see all this mess. Isn't that fantastic? That is so cool. You're absolutely right, Dagmar. You could put a shawl pin here. That would be amazing for when we're camping. What a cool idea. Or you could even tie it underneath like that. Anyhow, regardless, my Next Steps, that book is just amazing. And so what I looked at I basically took one step at a time, and I was like, okay, I've never done this before. I have no idea about the treadling. I have no idea how to do this pattern. People in the School of Sweet Georgia have been posting Huck tea towels, and I felt so inspired. So I just did one thing at a time. I wound the warp, and I did 5 ends for each sort of color transition, if you will. I had it all written out how I wanted to do it. And so I did 5 or 10 wraps depending on how much yarn I had for that specific color. And then I would transition to the next color. So each of these, the warp colors are 5 or 10 ends. And then for the weft, I just wove randomly because at that point I only had like partial skeins left. So I just wove until I ran out and then I went to the next color. And I just kept track of my treadling and kept track of where I was in the pattern and just kept transitioning so that I ended up with warp and weft floats. And it just, in the washing, it just cinched right up just in a really lovely way. I threw it in the wool wash in my washing machine. And then I tumble dried it for about 4 minutes because I have a wool setting on my dryer as well, which is fantastic. And that's it. So I will finish this off. Thank you for your kind colors. It is washed. That's why I need to do the fringe, and then I'll be able to completely finish it off. So I'll do the fringe. I was sitting here trimming out the ends this morning. Like I've still got all the those to trim off. So I'll finish those off and then I'll show you the finished object next week. So and I'll try to write up what I did. Oh, Greta Lynn, that's so kind. My 7-year-old daughter gasped. She loves it. And I do too. Thank you so much. It's very bright. It's very colorful. And I have about 7 little mini skeins left of yarn, like little mini ones. So that's kind of fun that I still have like a little bit of yarn left over. So Nora hasn't seen this yet. So I'm worried because I think I might lose it. So Huck lace will make it so much warmer. Absolutely, Diana. And it's funny because I kept going back to it and kept going back to it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, what if I mess it up? And I did actually mess it up at first. So I was about 3 inches into the weaving and I had messed it all up. And I just thought, you know what? This is totally fine. I'm just going to unweave it and I'm going to try it again. And if it doesn't work, I'll take it out. And at that point, I can decide I can always just weave a tabby weave, just plain weave. So I kind of gave myself some grace and just sort of was like, you know what? You know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If my treadling is wrong, it's wrong. James wanted to thread my heddles for me because he's been threading my heddles for me with me. So he goes one way and I go the other because he totally gets how to do it. But he couldn't with this one because I was threading 1 4 1 4 1 and then 2 3 2 3 2 and going back and forth. So I really had to pay attention and I only messed up 1, which is pretty amazing. So I had to tie on a little heddle and make a makeshift heddle. So that's pretty good. Out of all of those ends, it was 440 ends in total. And I probably actually could have set this at 8 ends per inch and it still would have been fine. It would have made it a little bit wider, but that's okay. I'm happy with the set and with how it feels. So yeah, it just needs a shawl pin. Thank you, you guys. I'll copy you as soon as my loom is free. Absolutely, Laureline, please do. Yeah, I'll write up what I did. I'll try and do a blog post of like exactly what I did, because actually I don't want to forget either. So imagine being a little girl and having this thrown over you that your mom spun and wove while camping. Thank you, Lubisha. Is it Lubika? I'm not exactly sure how to say your first name and I don't want to mess it up too badly. Oh, Lane, it's good to see you. Let's go on to community participation because I feel like we could sit here all day. And I have some spinning that's going on my wheels right now and I'll do some video of them for next time so that you guys can see. I also had some photos of the weaving itself. So these were some of the warp chains that I made. So if you guys want to see those quickly, these were the warp chains. There ended up being 5 warp chains. 1, 2, 4. Yeah, there were 5. So there was 1 for the middle and then 5. So this is the back of my Leclerc loom. So this is our living room. We used to have couches in here and a dining room, and that's all gone now. It's basically my studio. So this was it at the back of the loom, and these are the Lee's sticks keeping the cross organized. So for those who aren't weavers. This was one of the other warp chains that I wove. Because they were so short, I didn't make them into chains. I ended up leaving them as just hanging. So I tied them and I secured them, but I put them straight onto the back of the loom. I didn't try to chain them up because they were too short. So there's that. And then I don't know, I do have some of the, so this was me actually, oh no, where did it go? I guess I don't have myself actually weaving it. I will do a little vlog of it and you guys can see that. You could absolutely do this on a rigid heddle for sure. And oh, Meg, yes, I will remind you for sure. The amazing Huck book that you got. I would love to hear about that because this is like my new obsession. I want to do tea towels next. I find when I'm learning something new, I need to do it 2 or 3 times to really like hammer it home. So I'm going to do this again, but in tea towels, so that I really kind of understand the mechanics of it and the nature of the weave structure, and then I'll move on to something else. Community participation. So for the month of February, tell us about your garment fitting issues. You can either comment here on Ravelry, comment on Ravelry, or you can comment here on YouTube. Don't comment in the live chat though. You need to go into the comments and comment. So tell us for February what your garment fitting issues are. There's been some great comments already, some really thoughtful ones. And actually I thought that maybe next month we would spend a little bit of time answering some of those questions and giving people some ideas of how to fix some of their issues. Dagmar was wondering if what will I do with the cutoff threads? I've been keeping them in a bag. So I have all of my thrums from the back of the loom, the fringe waist, and my plan is actually long-term to use them as thrums in like mittens and stuff. So I was thinking one year I would do a whole bunch of gift mittens for the family, and that I would use a bunch of them up in that process because I haven't thrown them out. So for February, let us know, and I will be sending out a pack of try it on tubing for you. So Wendy had this question about overspun singles. So this was in Ask Anything on the Ravelry group, and she says, this is a chain plied Shetland from her departed sheep Tansy. I was overcompensating for my tendency to under twist, and I over twisted the singles. I thought they would loosen when I plied them, but they didn't. Then I hoped the yarn would soften after knitting with it, but nope. And it's very unpleasant to knit with too. This is the last of my Shetland from my little flock. Is there any hope for this yarn? I've even tried using a hair conditioner on it. Should I just resign myself to weaving a doormat with it? So this is a really tough question because when you've got overspun singles, when they're really ropey and really, really badly over twisted and they're already plied, there's not really a whole lot you can do. You can lessen the twist in the plied yarn and just kind of untwist it a little bit and take it down, because when I look at your plied yarn in the photo here, if you have a look at those skeins, especially the ones that are at the top that are still in skein form, you can see that twist angle is still quite severe. It's over 45 degrees. So if it was me and I wanted to salvage this yarn into something, you're not going to have really super pretty yarn, but if you guys can probably sort of reflect on some projects that you've knit where the yarn wasn't really super pretty, but the knitted object, it didn't matter. It almost like the knitting kind of hides the fact that the yarn isn't really super pretty. And so what I would personally do, because this is such special yarn to you and it has such a special place in your heart, I would personally ball up all of the yarn and I would put it back through your wheel and take out some of that ply twist. And I would just loosen down the ply twist angle. Your singles are well spun. You know that they're really high twist. So you know that structurally the yarn will be stable. And so I would take the ply twist down to like 35 degrees. So like untwist the yarn and then wash it, and your yarn might look a little bit limp. It might look a little bit kind of flat. It might not have a lot of life in it. It might poof up a little bit and sort of let go of some of that ply twist, but I would unply it a little bit, just unspin it a little bit, take some of that excess ply twist out, and then wash it again, give it a good soak for a while in warm soapy water, move it around a little bit, not to tangle it, but just a little bit to kind of really try to get the water right into those singles, get them to really poof back up. and dry it and see where you're at. And then let us know. And then if you're still not happy with it, we can talk about it again. So that's what I would do, Wendy, just as a place to start. And if anybody else has any ideas, please don't hesitate to jump in. Becca shared a finished spin. Becca, like many, has been homeschooling and doing home learning. And so she has been not getting a whole lot done. And she's also working on her spinning certificate right now. So she's got a couple of different things in the work that she's working on. So this yarn, I saw it when she posted it in the Slack channel and I just swooned. First skein to come off the wheel in a long time, while my making pace has slowed to a crawl, but this is the Yarnadelic base. It's a Corriedale from John Arbin in the Sunflowers in My Garden colorway, which is beautiful. This is probably one of my absolute most favorite colorways ever, like of all time. I spun it as a 2-ply to hopefully do some stranded color work with other colors that she has yet to spin. It's about 24 wraps per inch and is waiting for it to dry before she measures the length. It's beautiful. And actually in the Slack channel yesterday or maybe this morning, I think it was probably earlier today for her, this morning for me, she posted the other color that she's putting with this, and it is shockingly beautiful. Oh, that's a great idea, Diana. She chopped up her thrums to 2-inch lengths, carded it up, and used it in her textured tweedy heathered yarns. That's great. Great idea. Yeah, you could absolutely make slippers out of it, Wendy. It would be tough as nails. Your slippers would wear beautifully. Absolutely. Can chain ply be unplied? Yes, it can. You can just, if it's chain plied, you can still take out a bit of that twist for sure. And actually, it's really normal for chain ply to be over twisted because people tend to add a lot of twist while they're making their loops. So chain ply tends to be really over twisted. So you can absolutely do that. Yeah. And actually, because it is so tightly twisted and it's such workhorse yarn, making slippers would be a great idea. That is not, if you don't want to keep playing with the yarn itself and you just want to make something, that's a great idea. And then when you're done, post photos. So we had some spinning growth this week, which was sort of some unexpected surprises, and they weren't put into the spinning growth thread on Ravelry, which is for where we put our projects that we're not really super happy with, but we have some reflections about what we could have done differently and what would have worked a little bit better. So they weren't posted in that thread, but they were posted in Slack and they were posted in Ravelry, and I thought that it was a great opportunity to share. So this one is from Kaylee. She knit this great toque. It's fantastic. She spun up an old braid of Polworth for a snack spin late last year. It was heavily thick and thin. She finally pulled it out to whip up a hat, not 100% sure that it would work. Lo and behold, it turned out very well. This is fueling me to dig through my stash to see what else I can knit with. I love this toque so much. This is a yarn that she wasn't super happy with when she finished it. She threw it in her stash, and you know, a little bit thick and thin when she finished it. There were probably overspun bits if it was a little bit thick and thin, and look what she created. Just beautiful, amazing. And I love the look of that striping through the ribbing at the beginning. I think it just is so harmonious. So there you go, Wendy, you can do a toque. Cat shares. I love this so much. So this is another one that was kind of an unexpected surprise. She, just to throw something in a bit controversial into the mix, last weekend she dug through her little bucket of ply balls. When she spindle spins, she'll often wind the single off onto a cardboard disc and then throw it in the bucket to be plied when she has the rest of it spun up. This particular fiber was from last year's phase of, quote, I'll get better at supported spindles by spinning every day. And to enable myself, I made a bunch of pretty colored roll eggs on a blending board. Beautiful roll eggs. And when she found her little ply balls, she realized she really liked the colors. So much so that she just cast on and started knitting without plying or even setting the single. She used a very simple shawl formula, spun the remaining roll eggs over the next 2 days, and finished the whole thing in 3 evenings. That's amazing. Now she's not expecting this shawl to stand up overly well and to last her a lifetime or even possibly one winter, but it was fun and liberating to just play with this and see what's possible. You know, you might be surprised, Kat, when you go to wash and finish the shawl, if you put it in warm soapy water and kind of give it a bit of a, you know, just kind of full it ever so slightly. We're not felting it, but just a little bit of agitation, just teeny tiny bit. Might be just enough to stabilize the singles and hold them, that this will last for a while. I bet you it'll be harder wearing than you think. Gorgeous yarn, gorgeous spinning. Fearless spinner, knitter, and maker. Absolutely, Diana. Yes. I love it when people experiment because that's how we learn. Sharon shares. I love this so much. She made this shawl from some older yarn that she had spun. It was 50% merino, 50% tencel. It was a marvelous, it has marvelous sheen and drape. The roving was already chemically dyed because Sharon does a lot of her own dyeing. I started the shawl for a friend the day that she learned that her husband had died of COVID. So many were thinking about you, Sharon, and about your friend and anybody else who is grieving in this time. But I thought this was just a beautiful, unexpected surprise. Natural Shades and our Zero to Hero is ongoing throughout the year. I think Natural Shades, like Zero to Hero, it's just going to kind of keep on going. So many of us work with this kind of stuff that I think that it'll just be something for us to keep working on. So this is from Sarah R., who I think is actually in the chat today. Finished Sweater, Midwinter by Trin Annalee. This is also the designer that did Gentle Morning that many of us are working on. Super happy with the fit. She omitted the pocket because knitting it would involve too much yarn chicken. Sounds way too stressful. I went through the fibers and yarns in my last post, but didn't mention that all of the handspun is 2-ply worsted weight. So she had shared in another post all of the yarns that she used for this. So she had shared all of this on Slack, but I think it's also on Ravelry. If knitting it again, I might do a few raglan increases in the underarm and cast on fewer stitches to improve the armpit fit. That's always an issue for many of us. The bottom ribbing could also be longer, but I lost total patience. I love this, Sarah. I think it's beautiful, and I love the neck. I think it's just fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful, beautifully done. Judy, Creek Crafter, shares her Natural Shades along. Her first fleece scour to skein is completed and ready to knit with. It's a half fleece Shetland BFL cross. She sorted the fiber to create a natural fade. So you can see that it starts on this side as sort of that creamy, slightly gray white, and then it moves across to that dark gray underneath. I just love that. I love that she took the time to organize the colors. It's not the most consistent spin that she's ever done. It's worsted to Aran weight, but she's pretty happy with the outcome. She thought she had 6 skeins, but she just found another pile of spun yarn not finished. And so she has about 850 to 900 yards. So I wonder what you're going to do, Judy, with it. Do you have any idea? Because I see that you're in the chat too. I thought you were here. This would be a gorgeous hat or a gorgeous shawl. I need to wet my whistle, all the talking. So Megan has a couple of shares this week. Megan's always finishing up tons of stuff and so inspirational. She finished a cardigan for her husband. So this is for her husband. It's beautifully done. The gray is CVM from a local fleece. The brown is BFL and the blues are Brooklyn Tweed. I'm sure it's Brooklyn Tweed Loft. The westerly pattern made into a cardigan is round and in the round, and then she steeked it and she put a zipper in up the middle, which has been really funny because Miriam has been talking about putting a zipper in a cardigan she's working on, and Dorothy was thinking about putting in a zipper as well. So it's kind of funny. I feel like things go in cycles in our community. Like for a while, one thing will be a big thing, and then it'll be the next thing, and then the next thing. So thank you for posting about the zipper, Meg, because she put quite a big post in Slack about putting in the zipper and how she did it. Also finished this gray Lincoln spin. It's a 3-ply, definitely a long wool that is drapey and it has 0 elasticity. She spun with a good amount of twist for weaving, so it feels pretty coarse. This was a very traditional long wool spin. Short forward, smooth back, rewind the bobbins to ply. Not my default. I am thinking about dyeing the Lincoln dark blue and pairing it with this brown carcool and weaving a herringbone project bag. I have something else on the loom first, so this will have to wait a bit. Beautiful spin there, Megan. I love those long wool spins. And then I just don't know what to do with them after, and so then I get stalled. But I think weaving with them is definitely the way to go. So Irish was sharing, she will definitely need to do some more dyeing and spinning for her Shifty. The colors always surprise me. She knit a swatch with both main color options, the gray and the gray, she said, doesn't really appeal to her. What do you guys think? So do you like the purple background or do you like the gray background? I have to admit, I actually really like the gray background, but I am more of a neutrals person. So you have to take that into account. If you're a colors person, you're going to go for the purple. And if you're more of a neutrals person, you're going to go for the gray. My vote is for the gray, but you need to do what you think is best because the purple works beautifully as well. I think you would be happy either way. And if you're kind of leaning towards the purple, go with your gut. But I'll wait and see what you guys think too. Oh, Katya, you are here today. I wasn't sure. You're always experimenting with great things. I think that's just wonderful. Um, I thought I had seen you. So let's see. Love the purple. I'm a color person. I like the purple. The colors stand out more prominently with the gray. That's a good point, Diana. I love the gray background too. The colors pop so much on the gray. The colors pop off the gray. I like the gray as well. Professed neutral wearer. Yeah, me too, Lane. Purple. I'm a gray person, but I like the purple. I'm kind of with Judy. I like the purple. I'm a gray person, but I like the purple. I love the gray as well. Priscilla says she loves both, but I love how the colors are more like what I think of when I do mosaic knitting and the Shifty. I'm a neutrals lover, so my vote is gray. Priscilla says so I like the purple. Maggie, I like the purple, but I'm a color person. I think it depends on if you want higher contrast or lower. Meg says, sounds like both gray and purple work. I agree. I think it really depends if you're a color person or not. Do you want a Shifty with lots of color, or do you want a Shifty with lots of contrast and more neutral? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Because remember, her swatch here, she's done the large blips, but with the small blips, you've only got the little dot of color. So she's got her swatch with the big blips, but if the purple just had the little dot of color, you might actually lose a lot more contrast between the colors. So with the gray, you won't lose that little dot of color and you'll have more contrast. So it really depends on what you're looking for. What I did with my Shifty, because I've started it a few times and ripped it out and started it, I looked on Ravelry to see which ones I was drawn to and which ones I liked best, and then I modeled mine after those ones. So that's something you could try. Somebody suggested going wild and using both. Somebody else suggests a fade. Lots of people are saying purple. Yeah. You guys have so many great ideas. I'll let Iris go back and read the chat and see what she thinks. And then you'll have to report back and let us know what you decide. Finally, Nicole shared this on the Slack channel yesterday, and I had to throw this in because you guys know this is one of the sweaters that's in my queue, and I've actually already spun the contrast color. I just need to go back now and spin the main color for my Spark Cardi. I bought the pattern when it was first published, which is really unusual for me because I don't actually mind paying full price for patterns rather than just buying them when they're first published for the discounted price because I want to know that I'm actually going to make it. But Nicole shared this yesterday, and there's been so many shares lately that I thought I would, I was going to wait till next week, but I wanted to throw it in. So this is her Spark Cardi done, and she loves it. She did fewer short rows for the collar, and she left out the belt loops. She may go back and do them after she wears it a few times. She's just going to wait and see. She did the crochet method for the steek and then needle felted a tiny bit. Thank you everyone who posted links. They were super helpful. Looks amazing, and you did a beautiful job of the steeking, Nicole. My Kent Romney that I spun that I shared with you guys back in January is actually my contrast color for this, and I have a Romney in my stash that's natural colored that's going to go with it. So that's my plan for my Spark Cardi. It's just way down on my list of all the things. So that is it, you guys. Big show today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for joining me. I hope that for those who have snow that you get outside and play a little bit in it, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Make sure that if you have not seen the post on Patreon for patrons of the show, that you are signed up for one of the Maker Mornings starting in March. Let me just grab the link and I will throw it in the live chat for you guys. There is still space available, and so if they don't fill up by the end of the month, when we go into March to start our Maker Mornings, you guys, I'll let you know when, but you'll be able to go in and sign up for a second spot, so that people who want to participate are able to participate. But make sure that you guys go in, sign up for your one, and then I'll let you know if they don't completely fill up. Thank you so much, Diana, for saying that. Thank you for bringing us all together weekly. It gives such delicious creative structure to her weekend. I'm glad. Thank you. Have a full weekend of making. Here in British Columbia, we have a long weekend, so some of us get to make on Monday as well. And I hope you guys just stay safe and stay warm and have a really, really full creative week. I will talk to you next Saturday, same time, same place. And until then, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy dreaming, happy weaving. What else are we doing? We do all the things. Happy dyeing. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye, everyone.